Welcome everyone to the Dob Now Licensing Summer 2022 release for elevator licensing training. Today's session will cover elevator agency directors, co-directors, and inspectors. There's another training tomorrow that will cover technicians, limited technicians, and helpers. So Diego covered a lot of this already, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. Please do ask your questions, put them in the Q&A. Any questions that are not answered now will be put in what we call a parking lot, where we may have to go and research the answers, but the answer will be emailed to you, as Diego said. You will remain muted for the entirety of the presentation. If we have time at the end, we may allow people to unmute to ask questions. But we do want you to ask your questions to make sure they get answered. In addition, after the session, you will be receiving an email with a survey, and we would appreciate it if you would fill that out, because we want to make sure our trainings are as valuable as possible for you. So we want to make sure that we're addressing what you need to know. So here's the agenda for today's training. We're going to start with an overview of elevator agency licenses and then an overview of elevator agencies. This may be information you already know, but we want to make sure that everyone is starting at the same point. We'll talk about what the actual process is to get an elevator agency license, and then we'll get into the details about things like how to log in, how to pay exam fees, new license applications, and at this point I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Anthony after the new license applications, and he will cover the license applications review process, objections, the business application request, how you actually get the license, what you need to do for renewal and reissuance of licenses, and we'll talk about additional transactions in the managed profile and managed license links, and we'll finish up by talking about how this all connects to Dob Now Build and Dob Now Safety. So let's get into this. The licenses that are part of this release are all related to elevator agencies. It's elevator agency directors, co-directors, inspectors, technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers. Now, as of yesterday, actually, this just got shut down. All of elevator agency licenses are filed through, or were filed through Dob Now Biz Options. As of June 25th, which is Monday, all elevator agency license-related transactions must be submitted in Dob Now Licensing. So anything that was already filed before the ability was taken away is going to remain in Biz Options. So if last Friday you filed for a renewal, that's going to remain in Dob Now Biz Options. But anything that is filed on or after June 25th will be in Dob Now Licensing. So let's start with a review to make sure we're all on the same page. Each elevator agency license has two components, both of which must be valid and active for the license to be active. And they are the license and the associated agency. Now, of the licenses, the director is the highest ranking license among the elevator agency licenses. And the director is the one who establishes the agency. Once the agency is established, the other elevator agency licenses can be associated to the agency. There can be only one director per agency, and the director license is valid for 3 years. Our next license is co-directors. There can be more than one co-director registered under an agency. Co-directors cannot create an elevator agency within Dob Now Licensing, but must associate themselves to an existing agency, and the co-director license is also valid for 3 years. Inspectors perform inspections on elevators and related equipment, and again, the license needs to be associated to a specific agency, and the inspector license is valid for 3 years. Technicians perform general maintenance and installation of elevators and related equipment. Again, the license must be attached to a specific agency, and the license is valid for 2 years. Restricted elevator agency technician licenses are restricted to performing work involving platform lifts, including those installed in private residences. Again, the license must be attached to a specific agency and it's valid for 2 years. Helpers are our last license type, and they work under the supervision of the technicians, and they assist or help with maintenance or installation of elevators and related equipment. Like the other licenses, it must be attached to a specific agency, but the helper license does not expire. So in order to create an agency, whether it's to create a new agency, the director needs to first submit their license qualification application, what we refer to as the LQA. Once that application is approved, the system is going to prompt the director to establish the agency that will be tied to their license. An agency can be established by submitting the business approval request, also known as BAR, after the license application is approved. But the process for submitting the license application and the BAR will always be 2 separate transactions. And we're going to go through both of those. Now, some of you may be saying, I don't need to create a new agency, it already exists. Well, directors can also join an existing agency that's already been approved by DOB. And the only difference is if they're creating a new agency, they have to provide all of the data. But if directors are associating themselves to an existing agency, they search for it by agency number, and then they can choose to edit only the fields that are changing within the agency record. Now, once the agency is approved, any subsequent updates or changes, including updates to insurance information, will only be able to be made by the associated director. And an agency must have one and only one director associated with it. Without a director, an agency is considered inactive. Now, agencies can have any number of the remaining elevator license types. So all other elevator agency licenses need to submit their license qualification application and the agency information in the same request. Basically, when they're filling it out, they need to enter the number for the already approved agency that they're associating themselves to. So we've been talking a lot about agencies. Let's talk about what the requirements are to qualify as a valid agency. Now, before we get into this, I want to make sure this is absolutely clear. Elevator agency directors can file new agency business approval requests, that's the BAR, and they can also update agency information. Every other elevator agency license, whether it's co-director, inspector, technician, restricted technician, or helper, they need to become part of an existing elevator agency. So, in order for an elevator agency to be established as a valid agency, there's only one type of insurance that is absolutely required, and that is general liability insurance. The director can choose to waive either one of the other 2 insurances, workers' compensation and/or disability insurance. Now, if a director does not include all 3 insurances for the agency, no other licensees can join the agency because the waiver of the insurance or insurances implies that the director is working by themselves. For every other elevator license type, all 3 insurances need to be active at the time that the prospective applicant chooses the agency. Now, when the license is issued, the expiration date of the license isn't actually impacted by the expiration dates of the insurances. So if your license is for 2 years or 3 years, but your insurance is only good for 1, that doesn't affect when your license expires. However, if any of the insurances that are associated to an agency become expired, they're not renewed in time, then all the elevator licenses that are associated to that agency shall become inactive agency insurance expired. Once the insurances are made active, then all the licenses will revert to their original status. So the criteria for an agency to be considered active is it must have a director with an active license. It must have general liability insurance that is active. It must have workers' compensation insurance that's active unless it's waived. And it must have disability insurance that is active unless it's waived. Now, we were talking about insurance updates. This is something we're going to go into in more detail later, but the important thing to know is right now, updates to insurance information gets emailed to DOB. This is the email address that you've been using. But in the future, elevator agency directors are going to need to sign into Dob Now Licensing in order to enter their updated insurance information. And like I said, we will demonstrate exactly how to do that. So let's talk about what the process is for getting an elevator license. So to become an elevator agency director, here are the steps. First thing that prospective directors need to do is they must pay their exam fee. And I'll show you how to do that. Once that's done, they need to go and take the exam, and of course they need to pass it. After that, they can fill out their license application, and there is a fee associated with submitting their license application as well. The license application is then going to go through DOB background check. And once the background check is done, the license application will be approved. And we're talking best case scenario here, but we're going to assume that everything works perfectly and your application will be approved. Once the license application is approved, the director is going to get notification that it's time for the bar submission. This is the business application request. The bar needs to be submitted whether it's a new agency or an existing agency. And the bar goes through its own approval process. Now, once the bar approval is done, the elevator agency prospective director can schedule their appointment to come and get their license card. There is a fee associated with that as well, and I'll be talking about what all these fees are. And the last step is that their license card is issued at that appointment when they come in. Now, how does this differ for co-directors or inspectors? Well, they still need to pay the exam fee. They still need to take the exam and pass it. They need to fill out their license application and pay that fee. They're also going to go through the DOB background check, which will lead to license application approval. Now, once the license application is approved, the prospective co-director or inspector can go right ahead and schedule their appointment. And again, there's a fee associated with the appointment. And at that appointment, their license card will be issued. So let's look at what the different steps are. And this is just for director, co-director, and inspector, because we have another class tomorrow about technicians, restricted technicians, and helpers. But all three licenses need to pay an exam fee. They need to submit their application. All three of them will go through the background check. All three of them will need license application approval, but only the director needs to submit the bar and get it approved. So I said we were going to talk about fees. Let's do that. There are 3 fees in the process, as you may have noticed. The exam fee is due before you even start your application. The background fee is due in order to be able to submit your application. And the license issuance fee is due after your application is approved and before you come into DOB to collect the license card. You pay that at the same time as you schedule your appointment. And here's what the fees actually are. For all 3 license types, the exam fee is $525. For all 3 license types, the background fee is the same. It's $500. But the license issuance fee actually varies. For directors and co-directors, it's $100. But for inspectors, it's $50. So the first step in the process for directors, co-directors, and inspectors is paying the license exam. So let's talk about how that happens. In order to pay the exam, you need to go to the Dob Now login site. However, you do not need to log in order to pay the exam fee. Instead, on the main login page, and I'll show you this once we get through the slides in the presentation. On the main login page, you're going to click where it says Pay Exam Fee. And you'll get a pop-up asking whether this is a new payment or an existing payment. If it's something that you've already paid, you need to enter your receipt number. But if it's a new payment, you'll just click on New Payment. And that will open the exam fee details pop-up. So you're going to need to fill out all of the required fields, and you can see which fields are required because there is a red asterisk next to the name of the field. One of the required fields is, are you taking the exam for the first time? If it is not your first time taking the exam, then an additional question is going to pop up. And it's going to ask, when did you take your last exam? And you'll click on the calendar in order to fill that out. I'm going to show this to you, like I said. Once you've filled out all of the required fields, you're going to go to the bottom of the pop-up and click Create. You'll get another pop-up notification stating that your record was created, and you'll click OK. And now a Proceed to Pay button will appear. Clicking on that Proceed to Pay button is going to take you into the CityPay site to pay the exam fee. Now, we're not going to review how to pay fees through CityPay as part of this presentation, but if you want to know more about that, there is documentation on the website. When you submit all this information, the system is going to verify your exam application eligibility. And I'll talk about what that is on the next screen. And once that happens, you can now schedule the exam. And once you pass the exam, you can go in and submit your license qualification application. So before I get to the demonstration, I want to talk about what the eligibility requirements are. In order to be eligible to take the written examination, you cannot have taken the exam in the last 14 days, nor can you have taken it 3 or more times in the past 6 months. And as you may be familiar with, the exams are not actually given by the Department of Buildings. Instead, they need to be scheduled through an approved exam vendor. And your score report from the exam is going to be one of the documents you need to upload as part of your application. So let's look at this process. This is the Dob Now login page. And if you were going to log in, you would do it over here. But instead, we're going to look in the public portal. And we're just going to scroll down until we get to Elevator License Exam Payment. You click on that, and it asks you, is this a new payment? Or is this a repayment because there's been a return check? So we're going to click on New Payment. Once this comes up, you can select your license class or class type, which is Director, Co-Director, or Inspector, because those are the only 3 licenses that take exams. Remember, if you are not taking the exam for the first time, if you answer this question no, you'll need to enter what the date was of the last exam taken. And you do it by clicking on the little calendar, and you can enter the date of the last exam. And then you need to fill out all of your information here. And it's very straightforward. Once you've filled everything out, you're going to click Create, and then you'll be able to make the payment. Now, what happens if you don't pass the first time? If you don't pass the exam the first time, you're going to need to make a repayment in order to retake the exam. And the process is exactly the same process as for the original payment. The only difference will be the date of your last exam. Now, what happens once you have passed your exam? Now you're going to need to log into Dob Now Licensing. So how do you do that? Let's talk about it. Now, how you log into Dob Now Licensing is going to depend on whether you currently have a license. If you do not currently have a license, you're going to need to create a new profile for Dob Now. And then you'll use that profile in order to apply for a license. And I will show you that process. Now, what if you already have a license, as many of you I'm sure do? Well, from there, it depends on whether you've already used DOB Now before, whether you have an e-filing account. If you already have an e-filing account, as of June 25th, you're going to be able to log straight in with no problems because your e-filing account profile is going to be automatically migrated to DOB Now. Now, if you do not currently have an e-filing account, you must create one in e-filing before June 25th so that we can migrate your profile. If you have a license, you are not going to need to create an account in DOB Now. You are only going to need to create an e-filing account. So what happens if you don't have a license? I'm going to show you this process. The first thing you do is you're going to need to go into the login page, and it says click here to create a new DOB Now licensing profile, this red box. That's where you're going to click. They'll get a pop-up asking if you have these other licenses, and we'll say no because we're talking about elevator licenses. You will then get this screen where it asks you to create a profile, and you do it by filling out all of these fields: name, email, password. You will also need to click the checkbox in order to attest. Now, when you click the checkbox, you're going to get a statements and signature pop-up. Read this through before clicking accept because you're electronically signing when you click accept. There'll then be a confirmation button to complete the process and create the new profile. So let me show you this process. We are going to go over here where it logs in and it says, click here to create a new DOB Now licensing profile. We'll click. I don't have one of these other licenses. So I get this, and I can now fill out my first name, my last name, my email, my password, and I can click the checkbox. Read through the statements and signatures and click accept. Once you have done this process, you are going to receive an email that looks just like this, and it's going to have an activation link. You must click on the link in order to activate your profile. Once your profile is activated, you'll then be able to log into DOB Now, and you will see licensing as an option. So just as a quick review, if you have an existing e-filing login, and you currently have an elevator license, you don't need to do anything at all. The DOB Now licensing module is going to be automatically added to your login. If you currently have an elevator license and you do not have an e-filing login, you must sign up for one before June 25th. And the way you do that, to go back, I just want to show this to you, says register for an e-filing account here, and that's where you'll click. Once this e-filing account is created, we'll be able to link it to your license, but you need to create it, and you need to do that now because on June 25th, we're going to be doing the migration. Before June 25th, actually, the night before. Now, once you log in, there's going to be modules, 4 different modules potentially listed. But the one you'll click on is DOB Now Licensing, and that's going to take you to the DOB Now Licensing dashboard. So let me show that to you. Now, this is someone who has already created their profile, Elevator License 03, and they've put in their password. So we're going to go ahead and log in. When we do that, you'll see that for this one, there's 4 different modules listed, and the one we're going to click on is DOB Now Licensing. Now, it may be that you are currently using DOB Now, and that's fine, but the licensing module will not show up until we have migrated the e-filing information. So that will show up by the 25th. So this is the Dob Now Licensing dashboard. So let's talk about where we go from here. The next step is to apply for a license. Now, I'm going to show you how to apply for a brand new license, but I'll also talk about what the difference is. Well, if you're renewing your license, that'll actually come a little bit later. I want to start by going through the process from the beginning. So in order to create a new license application, there is a button that says plus new license. That's what we're going to click. It then asks, what license type are you selecting? And we'll choose elevator agency because these are elevator agency licenses. We then need to enter the license class or / class type. Again, remember, elevator directors can be created before the agency is established, or they can be associated to an existing agency. But every other license class / class type must be associated to an existing elevator agency. The next thing that will pop up is the, excuse me, I'm teaching, I can't do anything. Sorry, I had to cough. The next thing that will pop up is the Supplemental Investigation Questionnaire. The actual questions that are asked will depend on which license type you've chosen, but every question must be answered yes in order for the submit button to become active. If anyone is answered no or skipped, the submit button will not be active. And then you'll be taken into the beginning of the application information. So let me show you this process as we go. So we're going to click on plus new license. We're going to choose elevator agency and click next. And from here, we're going to select elevator director or co-director or inspector, depending on what type of license you have. We now get to the Supplemental Investigation Questionnaire. Now notice the submit button is not active. If I answer no to any of these questions, the submit button will not become active and I can't move forward. I must answer yes to all of them in order for the submit button to be active. And once I click submit, it will take me into the application information. And you'll notice that some of the information here is already filled out because it's the information that I put in when I created this login. It's my name and my email. And I'll also fill in the information based on the application type, the license type, and the license class / class type. That's all information that I already entered. From here, I need to enter my address information and my telephone information. Now, you can choose to enter your home telephone or your mobile telephone. You don't have to enter both, only one of them is required. You'll also enter your date of birth, your SSN / ITIN. And then if you are doing any type, if you're doing a co-director or inspector, you're going to see this field that asks you for the agency number. Because remember, co-directors or inspectors need to associate themselves to an existing agency, and they do it by entering the agency number. You're not going to see this on the director license that I'm showing you. From there, you'll click save, and you'll get a notification that you can't change the application type from new license once it's saved. And then you'll see that the application has been saved. You'll click OK. So let me show you that step. Let me enter the house number, the street name. Now, it's not going to pop up for you. I've used this before for my samples. That's why the information is popping in. But I'm just going to enter my mobile telephone, and I don't need to enter my home telephone. Now, when I go to enter date of birth, you'll notice it doesn't actually let me enter anything that is not at least 18 years ago, which would be 2004. Because one of the requirements is you have to be at least 18 years old. So I enter in my information. I enter in my social. And I'm going to say I'm not a city employee. And from here, I need to click Save. It'll tell me I cannot change from the new license application type. I'm okay with that. I'll click Save. It will tell me it's been saved, and I click OK. Now, you'll see some new information here. Let's talk about what shows up. First of all, you'll see that a license application number is assigned. You're also going to see 4 more tabs on the left: background investigation, qualifications/experience, documents, and statements and signature. We'll go through all of those. You'll also see up at the top the status bar, and we'll talk about what that is once we're done with entering our information. So we've completed the general information tab, so we're going to move to the background investigation tab. And the first thing you'll see in the background investigation tab is the license history. You'll click plus add history to enter details of any license, certification, or registration that's been issued to you by any city or state. And you must enter at least 1 license, certification, or registration in this section. And what will happen is when you click enter, what will pop up is this license history pop-up, and you need to enter your name, the type of license, the number of the license or certification or registration, the current status, and the expiration date, and then you'll click Save. So let me show you that before we go on. So we're going to go to the Background Investigation tab, and I'm going to click plus Add History. So I'm going to enter my name, the license type, the certification or registration number. Now, the current status can be active, expired, revoked, suspended, rescinded, or surrendered. I'm just going to choose active and say that the expiration date is whenever it happens to be. And I'll click Save. And it'll notify me that the license history has been added. You see, there's this first license here. I can continue adding licenses if I have more to add, but for now, I'm just going to add 1. The system then asks, do you currently have a valid driver's license? Now, if you say yes, it's going to ask you where was the license issued and what's the number. If you say no, it's not going to ask you for the license information that you don't have. The next question asks if any licenses or government-granted privileges have ever been rescinded, revoked, surrendered, suspended, or disqualified. If you answer yes, you are going to need to explain the details in the comments. And then you get to the personal information section. This is where you need to enter if you have ever been known by any other names. If yes, you're going to click the plus add history button to enter any prior names, and you'll click Save when you're done. So this is the personal information. You need to enter the name that you used to be known by, as well as the social security number, and click Save. So let me show you those 2 steps. So I'm going to say that I do not currently have a driver's license, because if I say yes, I have to enter that information. And I'll say that nothing's ever been rescinded, revoked, surrendered, or so on. Now, in my case, I've been married. I changed my name when I got married, so I'm currently Martha Turner Fine. I used to be known as Martha, oops, got that backwards, as Martha Turner. And then I would again enter my social security number. Oops. I will enter my previous name. There's 2 more questions that show up there. The first one is, have you ever been employed by a city, state, or federal government agency? And the second question is, are you related to any DOB employee or employees, including through marriage? If you answer yes to either one of those, you will need to explain it in the comments field. If you answer no, you don't need to explain it in the comments field because there's nothing to explain. So I'll say no and no. Notice if I answer yes to either one, comments becomes a required field, but I'm going to say no. The next section asks about residences. you must enter the full address of all residences where you've lived for 3 or more months in the past 10 years, or since you graduated high school, whichever is less. And you do it by first clicking the plus add residence button. And then you need to enter the dates that you were there and the street address and click save. And then it'll notify you that the residence has been added. Repeat the process as many times as necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to add a residence. It's my current address, and I've lived there a very long time. I've actually lived there since 2001. We'll say January 1st, 2001. And I don't need to enter the to date because I currently live there. And then I put in my address, city, state, and zip code, and click save. And there you see that address. Now, if there's multiple addresses, I would just keep going. I'd click add residence again. Now, the next step is to go to the next tab because that's the end of the tab. We always recommend that you click save before moving to the next tab because save ensures that you don't lose any of the information you just entered. It's not going to stop you from going to the next tab if you don't click save, but I always feel it's better to be safe and make sure that you click save. So we're going to click save and then go to the qualifications/experience tab. And there we'll see 3 questions about convictions and fines. Have you ever been convicted or pled guilty to an offense anywhere? Do you owe any penalties or fines to the City of New York? And does any company or business you have been associated with under your license owe any fines, penalties, or fees to the City of New York that were incurred during your association with that company or business? You'll answer them yes or no. And then we get to employment history. Now you're going to need to enter employment history for each job you want to use as qualifying experience. What you'll do is you'll click the plus add employment history button and enter your work history. And you need to start with your current job and then go in reverse chronological order. So you go backwards. Now, when you enter this, one thing that's really important to know is that you need to provide a valid supervisor's telephone number because that's how the background unit verifies your experience. So what you'll do is when you click plus add employment history, you'll get this employment history information pop up. The pop-up has 2 tabs, employment information and wages detail. The employment information is pretty straightforward. It's the dates you were employed, the company name and address. It asks whether the company is still in business, and then you need to enter your supervisor's information. And if it's not your current job, you need to enter your reason for leaving. You'll then go to the Wages Detail tab. And here, you need to enter your title, the time period you had that title, your wages per hour, your hours per week, and a description of the type of work that was performed, and you'll click Add. Now, sometimes you may have had more than one title at a company. You can do this multiple times, and I want to show you what this looks like. So we're going to click Save to make sure I don't lose any of the data I just entered, and we're going to go to Qualifications/Experience. I'm going to say no to these 3 questions, and then I need to enter employment history. So we're going to start with my current job. So I'll say this is my current job, and I've been employed there a long time. I'm going to say I've been employed there for 10 years. And again, we'll choose January 1st. I entered the name of the company, the address. Again, this is not going to pop up for you. It only pops up for me because this is the account that I use for all of my demos. I must enter my ownership interest, the percent, and whether the company is still in business. And from here, I need to enter my supervisor's name, title, license type, license number, their telephone number, and their email address. The reason for leaving section is blanked out because I currently work there. We then go to the wages detail. Now, I have worked at this job for 10 years. I've had a couple of different positions. I was a technician from 2012 to 2016. And at the time, I earned $35 an hour for 40 hours a week. And I'm going to put in the details of the type of work I performed. I'll just say technician work, but you actually want to put in the details. And I click add. Now, I had another position. I was promoted to a technician level 2, and this was 2017 to present. And my wages per hour went up to $45 an hour, $10 per hour increase, pretty good. And I was still working 40 hours per week. And I put in the details. And I can do that for as many positions as I had. Notice that has all of the information here. And from there, all I need to do is click Save. And you will see that my employment history shows up. Now at the bottom, and I'll show you this in the PowerPoint as well, it again shows you the questions from the Supplemental Investigation Questionnaire, but you can't change them. I'm going to click Save because we're going to move on to the next tab. The next tab is the Documents tab. And what you need to do is you need to upload all of your required documents or qualifications. What you'll do is you'll click plus Add Document, and you'll see the uploaded document where you can enter the document name and the document type, and it'll show you all of the potential document types in this drop-down menu. You'll enter the name and the appropriate document type. Then you'll be able to click Choose File and navigate to the document on your computer. Once you've done that, you'll click Upload and repeat the process for every document that you're required to upload. Now, once you have uploaded it, it's going to show up in Pending Status on the Documents tab. And you'll see on the Documents tab that there's an Actions column where you can view the document or delete it. So let me show you this process as well. Let's go to our Documents tab. I'm going to click Add Document. So, for example, one of the documents that's required is photo ID. I'm going to call that ID. I'm going to go choose my file, which we're going to pretend was actually my ID and not a test document. And then I click Upload. And it will show up in the uploaded section. It's not showing right now, but it will show up for you. And so you'll repeat that process for all required documents. And then you'll click Save, because we always click Save before moving to the next tab. The last tab is Statements and Signature. And on this tab, you will see what you are attesting to. Read it through, and then click the checkbox to electronically sign. The last step before you can file is you must pay the $500 fee. And to do that, you're going to click the Pay Now button at the bottom of the toolbar on the right. And that will take you to the CityPay site, and you'll make your payment. Once you have done all of that, you can click the Preview to File button to submit your application. Now, it may tell you that you need to fill in information that you've missed. I'll give you an example. If I go to my Statements and Signature, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click to attest. I'm going to click Save. And if I click Preview to File, it's going to tell me I haven't submitted any of these documents. So I need to do that before I can file my application. If I've done all of that and paid my fee. Then what's going to pop up is the application preview window. This is going to show you the entire application, and you need to page through it to make sure everything is correct. Assuming everything is correct, at the bottom of the last page, there is another checkbox where you're going to click to attest that you are signing the application. Once you've clicked it, you will be able to file your applications. And the application will then go to DOB for review. Now, at this point going to hand things over to my colleague, Anthony. Anthony is going to talk about the review process and then go into some of the other tools.
I am indeed. Thank you, Martha. Once again, my name is Anthony. I'm going to be taking over from here and walking you guys through the rest of the presentation. So we got a couple of really cool things to cover. So let me get the share going and we'll get the party started momentarily. Just waiting for my machine to respond. Let me get back here. Here's the meeting and I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. Let me just get set up for full screen. Okay. So thank you once again, Martha. We'll be taking a look at the license review process from here. Just get full screen here and get that guy out of here. Okay. So the license review process is as follows. I still got my tools going, sorry. All right, so here's the license review process for elevator directors, which also includes the business application process by default. Directors can choose to attach themselves to existing elevator agencies or create a new elevator agency. The steps are, we would have our pre-filing, then we would have the pending background review, the qualification approved, and the business application is pending. Then the approval letter is sent, and then the approved license issuance is pending. And then lastly, we have the license card issued. Okay, this is the review process for elevator co-directors and elevator inspectors. Very similar to the previous one, we have a pre-filing, pending background review, approval letter being sent, the approved license issuance pending, and then lastly, the license card gets issued. So let's first take a look at responding to objections. Maybe you applied for the license and somebody had an objection to it. So let's take a look at the steps to do that. So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of slides and then we'll actually go into the system and take a look at how to respond to an objection. So the inspections unit has three options for responses to license applications. The first being non-adverse. This means that the license application can move forward to the next step in the process. Everything is good and you're ready to go. Then we have adverse. The license application cannot be granted with the information given. This decision is final and the applicant must submit a new license application to be considered again. And then lastly, we have objections. This response means that there is some issue with the license application that must be addressed. Maybe some paperwork or one of the documents has to be addressed by the applicant before the application can move forward. So if there is an objection raised on a license application, the applicant will receive a notification email. And this is a screenshot of what that email would look like. And you can see there's all the links so they could log in and address these objections, which is what I'm going to do next. So a new objections tab will display on the left-hand side over here. If we don't see that, then there's no objections. But if we get the email, we'll come over here and we'll click on the objections tab. And then we'll be able to come over here and edit and make changes to that and reply or respond to the objection. So we can add additional comments in the comment box. Then we'll click update. We'll add documents or otherwise update the license application as needed. And then we'll go ahead and resubmit the updated license application. So I'm just going to jump us out of here and into the system. And I'm just going to head over here to go to one of the licenses that I have set up to respond to objection, and that's going to be this guy right here. Let me just drop in my password. And then we're going to go log in. And now I'm going to click right over here on the licensing button. And here we are in the license that has the objections on it. So now if I want to respond to the objection, I have to click or double click the actual license over here. Just going to give me this little pop-up that's going to give me some information and say, okay, if you want to view it, just click OK or cancel. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And here's the objections tab that I just referenced. Give that bad boy a click. And then over here, we could hit the edit button or link. And then we could begin to put in additional information over here. Docs added. Okay. And then I could go ahead and click update. Now the objection has been updated. If I need to go to any of the tabs, maybe I need to upload a new document, then I'll just have to save and then do the resubmit. Okay, so it's a very simple process, as you could see. All the steps are outlined in the PowerPoint, so you can easily go back and review them. Okay, so business approval request, or as we call it, the bar. Let's take a look at how we do that. So the elevator agency license types other than directors will join an existing elevator agency. An elevator director's license qualification application contains an additional step, qualification approved, business application pending. When the license request reaches that point, the elevator director can begin the process to either establish a new elevator agency or join an existing agency. On the Dob Now Licensing main dashboard, all we need to do is click the plus business approval button and enter the approved license qualification number. So as soon as we click this, this window pops up, and then we enter that number in, click submit, and we're on our way. Now we'll have to answer all the necessary questions and fill in all the information, kind of like we saw Martha doing earlier when she was applying for her license. So first, the applications will be asked if they're joining an existing agency or establishing a new agency. If they're joining an existing agency, they can search for that agency by the number. Okay, if they are creating a new agency, they must fill in all the information about the agency. Okay, the business types that we're taking a look at here can be corporation, limited liability company or LLC, a partnership, a sole proprietor, or an individual. So we're going to choose one of these, then simply click save, and then yes to go ahead and confirm. Now, we're also going to have to add partner or officer information, and that's very easily done by clicking the plus add button and filling out the form with the appropriate information, of course. And then we're going to continue until all required partners or officers have been added. So we may have multiple partners and offices, so we'll just be able to keep clicking the add button over here and adding them in as needed. Now, for the insurance part of it, we'll have to enter our general liability insurance information, and the general liability insurance is always required for elevator agencies. If they are not waived, workers' compensation insurance and disability insurance information must be entered. Now, if we click yes, then we'll see additional fields become visible, and we'll have to put in the appropriate information, policy numbers, effective dates, and so on. But if we click no, then we'll just be able to continue through the bar application process. Now, something important to keep in mind here is workers' compensation insurance and disability insurance may only be waived for sole proprietorship elevator agencies. If there is more than one worker, the agency must have both types of insurance along with general liability insurance. Okay, so here's what the workers' compensation and disability insurance section of the bar looks like. Now, again, you can see because this radio button is set to no, these additional fields, like I just mentioned, are now visible. If we were to click yes, those fields go away and we're ready to move on. So we'll have to enter our policy number, our start date and expiration date, and the broker information for each type of insurance, both for workers' comp and disability. We can always add any additional comments that we need at the bottom of the General Information tab, and then we'll click Save before moving to the Documents tab. Okay, this is very similar to the process you just saw earlier. In the Documents tab, users may upload their New York State certification of incorporation, filing receipt or certificate of good standing, minutes stating the names of the elected officers, general liability insurance certificate, workers' compensation insurance certificate or waiver, and disability insurance certificate or waiver. And then lastly, we have the Statements and Signature tab. So we'll just have to click the checkbox for our statements and signatures. And then we'll finally say yes to confirm that we do indeed want to do this. Now, there's no fee to submit a BAR or a BAR. We just have to click the Submit button and then click yes to confirm. Okay, and then we'll be able to see the BAR listed in the dashboard. So we'll be able to go to the Business Approval tab of the licensing dashboard. You can see that we have the 3 tabs right here. And once the QA review is complete, the applicant will be notified and the license request will move forward to allow the applicant to schedule an appointment to come into the DOB and receive their license. So let's take a look at creating a BAR. I'm just going to log out of this one, and I have another one set up to demo how the BAR works. And that is right here. Okay, right on here. And then here we go. So the button right up here, plus business approval, this gets the party started. So let's get rolling. Now, the first thing I want to do is put in the number of the license qualification. And we could see that number right over here. And it should still be right here in my drop down. So I'm lucky. Otherwise, I could have just copied and pasted that in as well. And I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And now here we are, ready to start filling out everything, all the information that we need to apply for our BAR. So I'm just going to say that this is a new agency. I'm going to give the agency a name. I'm going to call it Bob's Elevator Repair. Okay, you see the agency number is grayed out because we're creating a new agency, not pointing to an existing agency. And I'll say this park. Have tab into the next one, New York. And then we got over here. Whoops. In the business type, I'm going to set it to corporation. Now you'll see it's looking for me to add the partner or officer information, but it's grayed out right now. I need to continue to go through and add some additional information. After I click save, I'll be able to come back over here and start to add them. So let me just put in my liability insurance number and my policy start date. And these are usually like about a year from each other. So I'm going to say that this one was good from June 15th. And then I'm going to just jump over here and move us forward in time to June 16th, so around a year. And the broker information is broker info, just to keep it simple. Now over here, this is what I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago when we were looking at our PowerPoint, is the workers' compensation insurance waived. If I click yes, no fields become visible, but if I click no, then the fields become visible and I would have to populate them with the appropriate information. Same over here for disability. Okay, just to keep the exercise simple, I'm just going to say yes, both of those are good. I'm not even going to add any comments, but I am going to come up here now and click save. And I'm going to say yes, because I do indeed want to create a new business approval request. And now we could see that the partner or officer information button is active. Okay, and I would have to add this information in. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this information in. Thankfully, some of that info is cached here, so I could fill this out a little bit quicker. And where's my New York? And I'm going to say 75% control for this one. And the title is, it'll be a little silly here. I'm going to call it Head Honcho. All I need to do, Head Honcho, and I'm going to click Save. So it's very easy to populate all of these fields. So I got the first part done. And like Martha mentioned earlier, it's always a good idea to click Save before you move on to another tab. All right, next up, I can add all my documents. And again, this is a very similar process to some of the ones that we just saw. So I could say that this is NYS, cert, and then head over here, grab a couple of PDFs or a PDF, and then upload. What's that all about? All right, let's try picking another one. How about this guy right over here? Okay. All right, let's see where else I can go to grab a PDF. I don't know why it's not grabbing those guys. But let me just back up. Right, the testing environment's being a little tricky, but I could still walk all the way through it. So I'm just going to cancel out of this. Let's say we added all our documents. Everything's good there. I'd be able to move on. I would want to hit save. I'd move on to my statements and signatures. Check that. Save everything again. Now, if I hit submit here, it's going to tell me that I'm missing my documents. So I really can't kind of do the full thing. But I think you guys understand that it's just a little hiccup inside the testing environment that we're using today for the demo. But we would just have to make sure that all of the necessary documents are there. If we went and hit submit, the system would come back and say, hey, wait a minute, you're missing some of those documents. And then I would be able to come back here and populate the documents that I would need to for the business approval request. Okay, when that's done, I could come over here to my business approval tab, and I could see my BAR is set up over here. I can see it's in the pre-filing stage when it started and when it was modified. Now I also have the option to come over here and view the info in it. And again, I could come back in and add any information that I need. Maybe I had to go and actually get those documents and come back the next day and finish it up. So we have the ability to do that. And also, whoopsie, back here. If I want to get rid of it, maybe I started it and said, wait, you know what? Let me get all my paper, all my ducks in a row, and then I'll come back and do the business approval request. Maybe you started off and got some wrong information in there, so you might need to delete that. So it's very easily accomplished by just hitting the little trash can and deleting it, and then you'd be able to come back up here and begin the process again. All right, so I'm going to jump back into the presentation and we're going to move on. So next up is getting a license. So once the license qualification application is approved, the applicant will receive a letter notifying them of the fact. Okay, this is a screenshot of what that looks like. They'd be able to just click the link right over here and be on their way to getting their license. Okay, the application status will be approval letter sent. If payment is due at this time, it will be visible on the Dob Now Licensing dashboard. We'll see a screenshot of that in just a minute. And right over here, you could see it's telling us that there is a fee due. We can even see the application status here. So all we would have to do is double click on the license details in the dashboard to open it up. We'd see this pop-up window show up again, and we would just click OK. We would then pay the $50 fee, and then we would begin to schedule the appointment. This is really easy. All we have to do is click on Schedule Appointment, pick the time or pick the date, and then down here, the time, and then click Yes to go ahead and confirm that appointment. After we do that, we would then see that we have that appointment scheduled. It would tell me the start time for it and the end time, along with the date of the actual appointment as well, and the duration of the appointment. Now, maybe something comes up and we need to cancel that and reschedule it. So we could easily do that by clicking on the cancel button over here. Your card will be issued at the appointment scheduled with the DOB. If a picture is necessary, it will be taken during the appointment. Okay, so let's go take a look at creating that appointment. Just need to switch to the filing that has an appointment for me. And that was 33. And right over here is the Appointments tab. I'm going to click on that. And then it's real simple to just come over here, schedule the appointment, pick my date. Let's do it on the 23rd, pick my time, and then go ahead and hit schedule. And over here, you can now see there's the appointment listed out. And again, if I want to cancel this because maybe something came up, I could go ahead and hit cancel and then just come back and do my appointment all over again, schedule a new appointment. All right. And again, we can see up here where we are in the process. So we're getting real close to getting that license card issued. Okay, I'm going to jump back into our presentation. And now we're going to take a look at the process for renewing a license, reissuing a license, and updating the insurance information, as well as a couple of other subjects. So licenses can be renewed. To do so, the license holder will hover over the Manage My Profile button. We just took a look at that before. I think you saw it probably popping up as I was navigating around the interface. And then we'd be able to choose what we want to do. So the Manage My Profile button on the main DOB licensing dashboard, we just choose Manage License. That'll take us to this screen where they can see any of the licenses that they have that are issued by the DOB and choose Renew, Reissue, or More. Licenses can be renewed starting 60 days before expiration and up to a year after expiration. Okay, the system's first going to ask if this is a renewal with change. So maybe we need to update some additional information over here. And if it is yes, then we could choose what we want to update as well. Okay, you can see that we go co-director change, but the director is the only one that would be able to change that. We could change to a different agency. We could update and add insurance. Again, that's a director only task. And the same with update agency information. That is also director only. So we could check the appropriate boxes and then go ahead and click next. We'll have to answer the questions on the supplemental investigation questionnaire. And these are the same questions that we saw Martha answer earlier. So all questions must be answered yes in order for the submit button to become active. And then the application will appear with the application type identified as renewal with change or renewal without change or renewal with change. And all fields in the general information tab will be auto-filled with the information from the prior license. Then all we need to do is click save to continue and we'll be on our way. So I am going to take us into the system now to show you that. And that's going to be 32. So let's get out of here. All right, so here's the manage my profile. And while I'm here, I can just show you real quick. We'll take a look at a lot of this stuff in just a short while. We could change our password, name, address, but I'm really concerned with managing my license. And here's how we take it all. Okay, so right, the renew button is not there. Oh, okay, well, I'm taking a look at update net over here too, so. I have this one completely open. Guys, I apologize for this over here. I'm not sure why they're not lit up. I had these all set up earlier. Well, we're going to take a look at the reissue one right here. And oh boy, I apologize. Was 32, right? What do you have more here?
I fixed it. Just try again.
Oh, okay, thanks, Martha. Okay. You're the best. All right, so here's where we're going to update the information. Okay, you can see that I have some of that information all filled in over here. So only the information that needs to be changed can be changed. So this is updating the insurance information. So I'd be able to change all of that right now. And maybe we're adding workers' compensation or not. We might have to go for some new documents as well. So we might have to add some of these documents over here. In this case, we don't have to provide any documents. And then lastly, it would be the statements and signatures. Now, I'm not going to click save to that because I think that's what happened earlier. I might have been practicing and accidentally hit save, causing the issue that we just saw. So I'm going to head back to the presentation and we'll move on. Okay. So this is renewing the license. Okay. I lost my place here for a second. Sorry. Pop-up notification is going to tell us that the change cannot be saved. It cannot be changed after saving, and then we'll click save. Okay, the application number will be assigned and 4 more tabs will be visible. The background investigation, qualifications and experience, documents, statements, and signatures. Now, the information from the initial license application will be auto-filled, which we just saw. Part of it was already filled in and waiting for us. And the user should fill in all the new or updated information, including uploading any required documents and signing the application. Okay, there is a fee for this. The fee for a renewal is $150 for directors or co-directors, $75 for inspectors, $50 for a late fee if renewed under 30 days before expiration. Once the fee has been paid, users can click save and then preview to file, review the application, and then submit. Okay, the review process for a license renewal is we have pre-filing, pending background review, pending the QA review, approved, and then the license card gets issued. Okay, and that is when we come over here and choose the reissue button. So supplemental investigation questionnaire will pop up. All the questions must be answered yes in order for the submit button to become active. And to reissue a license, all we would have to do is click the reissue button or manage the license page. So let's jump back and take a look at that. And reissue is over here. And here's the questions I have to answer. And you can see over here, all the information is pre-populated. There's only this one field that is active. And this is where I can say why I need the card to be reissued. It was stolen or lost. So I could come over here and say, I lost my card, then hit save. So it says, please note that the below information cannot be changed after saving. Application's been saved. And now I'd have to come back over here and fill in any additional information. Okay, now in this case, I'd have to provide a document, an incident report, or other supporting documents, and I'll just call it incident. Choose a file. Let's see if this is going to work this time. Okay, I'm not sure why. It's definitely there. Okay, so I would add my documents, and then lastly, my statements and signatures. Then I would hit save and then preview to file. Now I don't want to do that because I want to keep this record active, this application active, so I could use it for a couple of other lessons. But that is the process. Let me jump back out to the presentation and we'll move back. We'll move on. So this is what we just saw. The license card was lost or stolen. We picked all that. And then we'd have to, go through each one of the tabs, make sure we're not adding anything, or we want to add to the background, qualifications, experience, document, statements, and signatures. And then we click the submit button. Now, if we have to pay a fee, in this case, we'd have to pay a $50 fee for reissuing the license. Once the request is filled out and the fee has been paid, the applicant then clicks preview to file to submit the reissuance request. The approval process for reissuing a license is as follows: pre-filing, pending background review, reissue approved, and the license card gets reissued. And we'd be able to see that there. I can even show you that once again. Well, because I didn't hit submit, so I wouldn't be able to see it listed in there. But we would if we did indeed hit submit. Okay, there it is going through the process. And now we'll take a look at how to change the co-director. So options in the more dropdown will depend on the license class. Directors have the most options, so they can opt for a co-director change to a different agency, update agency information, or update and add insurance. So you can see those three choices right here. So we're going to go and take a look at each one of these. So the three options can be combined. So you kind of do a little one-stop shopping here. So if you wanted to do all three options at once, we would just click all the necessary buttons that needed to be updated. So maybe we have co-director change and we're changing to a different agency and we wish to update our agency information. So we'd be able to do that all in one fell swoop. Again, we'll have to answer the supplemental investigation questionnaire. All the questions have to be answered yes in order for that submit button to be lit up. And for change to a different agency, the license information will appear. For co-director change or update agency information, the agency information will appear. All information in the general information tab will be pulled from the original license and it will be read only. No changes can be made. And then we would simply click save. Notification window is going to pop up. We'll click save. The rest of the license request or agency information tabs will appear. Then the applicant must reattest in the statements and signatures tab, as well as updating all other information that needs to be updated. So any documents, any additional information in those fields will have to be updated. Okay, there's no fee for those changes. Then we'll have to click preview to file, and then the page will have to go through the application, or I'm sorry, the page through the application and attest by clicking the checkbox, then click file. And then these are the steps that the application will have to go through: pending QA review, and then lastly approved. Okay, a director can also create a new agency in the change to a different agency transaction. And then lastly, we could choose the update and add insurance. Okay, so let's go take a look at how all of that is accomplished. This is the 10832. Yep. So now I'll just come over here to manage my license, and we come over here to more. Now, again, I could choose each one of these independently, But when I go to co-director change, oops. Martha, is that something you could free up on your end again? Issue there. Okay.
Fixed.
Okay. Right. Thank you. All right. So I can change to co-director change or change to a different agency. So I'm going to show both of these right now. So we'll do 2 for 1. So when I click next, here's the supplemental questions. So the grayed out fields can't be updated, but down here, we can change any of this information. And then go ahead and click save. So all of this information can be changed relatively easily here. And you can see that we're changing the co-director and the change to a different agency. We jump back. Now, if we want to do each one of those separately, we can. So this is another one that we could do here. Wait, I want to do update agency information this time. And again, these are the values that we can update over here, telephone numbers and stuff and what have you. And then lastly would be update the agency information. Now here's where I could change all the information once again. Down over here, if we need to add any workers' comp or disability insurance, we can now say no, add all of that information in. But this is really the part that we would be able to update over here. Then we would click save. We might have to upload new documents. And then lastly, we would have to do statements and signatures. Okay, now there's one more thing I want to show over here, and that is the update add insurance. So down here is all our information on insurance. So this is where we can update our liability insurance. And again, if we wanted to add any of that workers' comp or disability insurance, we could do that. We would hit save, upload our new documents, statements and signatures as well. And then we'd be on our way. And then I think that was the last thing, right? We took a look at all of these guys and we did this one. So we're on our way. All right, let me jump back to the presentation. Updating the license holder information. This is done up here under change profile. So you could see that we could change our password, change our name, change our address, or change our name and address. So to update the user's name and her addresses, all we'd have to do is hover over the menu and choose change profile and then pick the appropriate choice. So maybe we want to change our name, got married but didn't move, maybe moved, need to change my address, or maybe got married and moved, so I need to change my name and address. So we'll be able to take a look at all of those. Now, with some of this information, you're going to have to, obviously provide your new name, your new address. Over here, we're doing both. So we're updating our name and address. So we fill in the information for that, fill in the information for our address. We'll be able to see the existing info. And then we click save. Now, a request number and 2 more tabs are going to appear. Documents and statements and signatures. Now, under documents, I have to provide them with a proof of name change or a proof of residence, like a utility bill, a lease or deed, or a notarized letter from the person you're residing with. Statements and signatures always. Got to pay a $50 fee to do that. And then it's the same process. It's save and preview to file, and then we'll be able to see where it is in the process. Okay, so let's jump back in and take a look at that. Manage my profile. So I could change my password very easily by entering my old password and then my new ones. And we have some password requirements over here. So you have to make sure that your password will meet these requirements. I'm just going to show you that real quick over here, but let's do change name. So you can see this is very easily done over here. And then once I click save, I would then have to have some sort of proof document, provide them with a document of my name change and then statements and signatures. I'll do kind of the 2-for-1 over here. I'm going to do change name and address, change name, change address right here, change name and address. And again, it's just like we saw, here's the info for the name. And here's the info for the house number. Now, when I hit save, we'll see those 3 tabs, and then I would have to go ahead. Let me go ahead and actually save this. And now you can see the additional tabs show up. So here's documents, and you'll see that we'd have to choose the proof of residence, the name change, pick the document. And I'm guessing that little hiccup's going to happen again over here. Let's try it though. Oh, all right. But then it would just be as simple as statements and signatures heading over here. You can see that I got the $50 fee that I would have to pay over here. And then it would be save and preview to file. So that is all the information that's covered under the manager profile. So it's all pretty easy and very intuitive. And they did a really good job building the system, because if you miss a field inadvertently, the system's going to let you know. If you forget a particular document, the system's going to let you know. So they did a really nice job engineering it, and it provides us with a little bit of a safety net in case we're having a very busy day and we forget one little detail. The system's going to kind of check things out for us. All right, let's take a look at elevator job applications and inspections reports. We're in the home stretch here, guys. So when job applications in DOB Now Build or inspection reports in DOB Now Safety, the system will pull information about existing elevator agency licenses from DOB Now Licensing with this release. This means, for example, when entering the details of the elevator inspector who will be responsible for the inspection report, all relevant data about their license will be automatically pulled over from their entry in DOB Now Licensing. Therefore, it is vital that all license holders keep their information up to date in DOB Now Licensing. This will make sure that their job application and inspection reports have all the correct data that they need. That wraps things up for the presentation, guys. I want to thank you for your time and attention. And I think we could open the floor up right now for any questions that you find folks might have today.